We've got some breaking news this morning. Russia says Ukraine made an assassination attempt on President Vladimir Putin last night. It was an overnight drone attack. Russian authorities say 2 drones were shot down over the Kremlin before they could deploy explosives. No one was hurt.
You're watching alleged footage of this attack, and please note at this time it is not verified. This is the video being circulated online. I cannot speak to its authenticity. The Ukrainian government is in fact denying any involvement in the apparent bombing. Joining us now to weigh in is retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Robbie. I always appreciate it.
So give us your expert opinion. Does this look like it was a legitimate attack potentially by the Ukrainians, even though they are denying it? Does that seem within the realm of their capabilities?
You know, 2,500 years ago, the famous military strategist Sun Tzu said that all warfare is based on deception, and that has never been more proven and more true than in this particular conflict, maybe uniquely so here. And the reality is that you really can't take anything at face value by either Kiev or Moscow, because both routinely use disinformation. The truth is, on this situation, that the only thing we can know is that apparently something happened. As you pointed out, we don't even know for sure that there actually was a strike. All we have is the claim from Russia that it was. The fact is that both sides, it could be Ukraine could have done this, because they have been launching quite a number of drone strikes throughout Russia, hitting in the oil tankers. They hit another one this morning in a different part of Russia. They have been firing on in the Bryansk region, on Belgorod, and so it would be in keeping with what they've been doing that they would have attacked the Kremlin. But of course, the Ukraine side says no, they denied doing this, but they've denied almost everything that's happened. So you just can't take anything at face value. What you can say, though, is that both sides are going to exploit this for their benefit. The Ukraine side will say, boy, this is another false flag by the Kremlin, and they're just desperate and whatever. And then, of course, the Kremlin will say, now that they're attacking, into the heart of our capital, we have withheld ourselves from attacking into their capital, but now maybe we'll pull that off. And they have claimed that they're going to retaliate in a place and timing of their choosing, and anything is possible from this point forward.
We can only speculate on this as far as you'd like to, but it seems to me that Putin isn't someone who's been hiding out through the entirety of the war. He's someone who's made public appearances. If an assassination was in the cards, wouldn't it likely be one that is successful? Is that reasonable?
It's extremely difficult for that to happen for any head of state these days, even Zelensky, because they really go to a lot of extremes to protect them, both in the airspace from the drone kinds of attacks and certainly on the ground. It was going to be very, very difficult. And I'm a little skeptical about it, I'll say, even on the surface of it, because the idea that you're going to assassinate Putin by sending a drone on a building, I mean, you'd have to have extraordinary intelligence to know exactly where he was in the building and have a much stronger drone strike than the one that we saw there, because in that video that you're showing, it's actually a pretty small little explosion going on there, not enough to penetrate a building and kill somebody. So that doesn't seem entirely plausible to me.
Right. No, I absolutely get that point. It's not, that was not the kind of strike that's going to, it's a large building. Like, obviously you could do some damage to the building, but you'd have to know who's exactly there. If it was a car would maybe make more sense. Of course, his movements are, would be not impossible, but very difficult for Ukrainian forces to know exactly where he is at all times. My understanding is that he's actually is often not in that building. He's there for official functions, but he spends a lot of time at a variety of residences throughout Russia. So let's say it was Ukrainians, but with very little confidence that they were actually going to do any damage, let alone actually harm Vladimir Putin himself. Could it be that they want to send a message? They want to suggest that we're going to really start targeting the Russian homeland in case there's a pullback of forces, something like that. Not something where they sincerely thought they were going to take out Putin, but it was them for some other strategic reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I think that regardless of whether they did this or not, they're going to use it for just that purpose, because according to all intelligence, Ukraine could literally be days away from finally launching their spring offensive. And this would certainly be used to bolster their side and say, look, we're taking this fight to Russia. It's no longer just, what we're receiving. We're striking out in their homeland in all these different areas. Even the Kremlin's not off limits. And so you guys need to fight harder. So I can absolutely see where they would do that. And I would expect them to do exactly that.
What do you expect that Russia's narrative is going to be now you're attacking us in the homeland, and to use this as an excuse for additional aggression?
Yeah, that's certainly how they could. And we'll certainly have to see how that unfolds in the day. But I can absolutely see Russia saying this is a terrorist strike. This just shows you the kind of people that we're dealing with. This is, this kind of rank people that are attacking into a civilian area of the government. We haven't even done that. But now that they've raised it to a level, we're going to retaliate in kind, et cetera. So they could strike back in addition and then claim that as justification. So, yeah, lots of things are possible, which is why I say it's really hard to tell. In fact, it's impossible to know at this point who's actually responsible for this.
And we should at least discuss the potential Russia doing it false flag element, unlike the Nord Stream strike, which a lot, some people said, oh, it's Russia, and then others said, well, that makes no sense. Why would they destroy the thing they had built? They could just stop using it. This isn't like. Again, we saw, if that video is legitimate, it's a very small explosion, not damaging any infrastructure whatsoever. It would be an easier thing to set up and say, the Ukrainians are at the front gates. We must, put even more effort into this war, something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. This has all the potential hallmarks of a false flag operation. It could be. It seems a little interesting that you have that camera angle right there at the point of explosion, and because it doesn't appear to be like a camera mounted on a building, because you can see some camera movement like someone's holding it. So little suspicious there. So, yeah, there's room for it to be a false flag here.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has told reporters that he learned of the leak of sensitive materials related to the Ukraine war over news reports. Quote, I did not receive information from the White House or the Pentagon beforehand. Zelensky said, we did not have that information. I personally did not. It's definitely a bad story. Colonel, what does this say about the state of U.S. Ukraine diplomatic relations right now?
Well, one of the things that the leak of information showed is that there is a great deal of skepticism and suspicion between the United States and Ukraine, in that there's many things that we don't tell them. There's many things they don't tell us. And we have to learn things from seeing some things in the news. And I think that just goes to show how difficult it is, because everybody doesn't trust, or nobody trusts anyone almost in this case, because they're afraid if they tell some things that maybe the United States won't like it and they'll do something about it, or they'll leak some information. That's not a good look for us, that we have that reputation that we leak things. But unfortunately, that's we've kind of earned a lot of that from some of our actions.
Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Robbie. Always appreciate it.